Reading the pesticide product label is presented by the Montana State University Extension Pesticide Education Program for Montana Private Pesticide Applicators. This presentation covers the information included on a pesticide label and the legal requirements of the label. Information within this talk will be included on the Montana Private Applicator exam. When you buy a pesticide product, you are entering into a contract between yourself, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, as well as the manufacturer of the product. This contract is in the form of the pesticide label, and you are legally required to follow all instructions on the label in order to ensure human and environmental safety. If you do not follow the label instructions, the applicator is liable for any negative impacts from the application. Reading the label can protect you and others, minimize the risk to the environment, and ensure an effective application through application rates and timing. One goal of a pesticide label is to reduce pesticide poisonings. In a 2010 incident, 2 children were killed in Utah from a fumigant applied incorrectly by a commercial applicator. The label stated not to use the pesticide within 15 feet of any building occupied by people. The applicator did not follow the label instructions, resulting in toxic fumes entering the family's home. In another incident in 2017, a fumigant was applied under a mobile home, resulting in 4 deaths. In this case, the pesticide was given to the homeowner by another person, and the applicator was not licensed and did not read the label. The label of the pesticide used says the pesticide is not for use within 100 feet of residences. Poisonings happen when applicators do not understand the products they are using. By reading the full label, every time you apply a pesticide, even one you feel you are familiar with, you can keep poisonings like these from happening. The pesticide product label can be found on the pesticide product container and may include additional material which is also considered to be part of the label, such as an applicator's manual. Before a pesticide label wears off or becomes unreadable, download a copy of the label from a database such as cdms.net. Make sure to use the EPA registration number to get the label for the exact product you are using. Formulations of the same brand name may change and the label will change with it. The EPA, in conjunction with the private registrant, approves pesticide products as a Section 3 approved pesticide. Section 3 approved pesticides are federally approved, but each state still must approve the product for use. Section 3 products do not present unreasonable risks to humans or the environment. I'm now going to cover the different parts or sections of a pesticide label. Here's an example of the first page of the label. The brand name is Amber. The common name or active ingredient is trisulfuron. Some labels will also list a chemical name. These are listed under the ingredient statement. It also lists the percent active and inert ingredients. And the signal word is always located on the first page of the label in bolded caps. For this product, the signal word is caution. The signal word refers to the toxicity of the pesticide to a human in a short period of time, also known as acute toxicity. This chart displays signal words and the lethal dose it would take to kill the average 160-pound human. Category 1 pesticides have the signal word danger poison, meaning these products are toxic by all routes of exposure, or danger, meaning the product is toxic through contact injury. These products are corrosive to eyes and skin. Category 1 pesticides can kill an adult with just a few drops to 1 teaspoon of product. Category 2 pesticides have the signal word warning, meaning they are moderately toxic. 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon of product will kill an adult. Category 3 pesticides have the signal word caution, meaning they are the least toxic. 1 tablespoon to a pint will kill an adult. Category 4 pesticides may not have a signal word. It takes 1 pint or greater to kill the average 160-pound human. Keep in mind children are lower in body weight, so it takes less product to kill a child. All the amounts listed here are dependent on body weight. The pesticide classification if restricted use can be found on the first page of the pesticide product label, listed in bold capitalized letters. Restricted use pesticides have a higher potential to cause adverse effects on the environment, humans, and animals. Also on the first page of the label is the EPA registration number, which indicates the pesticide product has been registered and approved by the EPA. You need this number for required pesticide record keeping. The EPA registration number identifies the manufacturer and the specific product and may also identify the distributor. Many pesticide products have similar names. The only way to tell if they are different is if the EPA registration number is different. Do not mix up the registration with the EPA establishment number, which is an identifier for the facility that produced the product. All pesticide labels have statements on how to protect yourself, others, and the environment, called precautionary statements. This includes a signal word, the first aid statement, a personal protective equipment or PPE statement, as well as physical and chemical hazards. Here's a picture of a pesticide applicator using a backpack sprayer. Can you see anything wrong with this picture? The issues here are that he is not wearing long sleeves or long pants. He is also wearing open-toed shoes with no socks. While he is wearing gloves, he is failing to protect the rest of his body. Whenever you are applying pesticides, you should wear long pants, closed-toe shoes and socks, long-sleeve shirts, and whatever else the label requires you to wear. So what part of the label should the applicator read? The applicator needs to read the PPE statement or personal protective equipment statement. A label may list PPE by activity, including handling, mixing, and loading. Notice this label also lists types of materials which are acceptable, such as chemical-resistant gloves made of waterproof material, such as polyethylene or polyvinyl chloride. Every pesticide label will be different, so it is very important to read the label every time you apply pesticides. Pesticide labels also contain sections on what to do if you are poisoned, called a first aid statement or sometimes listed as Statement of Practical Treatment. You need to read this section prior to applying a pesticide so you know what to do if you are exposed. This section of the label is broken down by route of exposure through the eyes, inhalation, ingestion, or skin contact. Don't make assumptions regarding first aid, as you can do more damage at times. For example, some products may instruct you to induce vomiting if ingested. Others you don't, as this could cause additional damage. The only first aid treatment that is consistent is rinsing the eyes for 15 minutes, though what you do from there may vary. Applicators should always have the pesticide product label with them when applying pesticides. Can you answer this question? Do you need to wear PPE 10 hours after an application? Maybe. It depends. You may need PPE 10 hours after an application, and you can find this out by determining the restricted entry interval, or the REI. The REI is listed under the Agricultural Use Requirements box or the Non-Ag Use Requirements. This section will list any required PPE if needed to enter before the end of the REI. In the example provided in the previous slide, the applicator would need to wear the PPE described if needing to enter the treated area 10 hours after application, since there is an REI of 12 hours. The PPE the applicator will need to wear includes coveralls, waterproof gloves, shoes, and socks. The Non-Ag Use Requirements box can be found on pesticide products for which there is a non-agricultural use. These uses may include lawns, golf courses, right-of-ways, rangeland, or ornamental plantings, among others. Why is Mustang Max a restricted use pesticide? Each restricted use pesticide is restricted use for a reason. Applicators should understand their pesticide product and the inherent risks. Usually the reason for a product being restricted use can be found in the restricted use box itself on the first page of the label. Mustang Max is restricted because it is toxic to fish and aquatic organisms, which is discussed in more detail in the environmental hazards statement. Here is the environmental hazard statement for Mustang Max. It states that this pesticide is toxic to fish and aquatic organisms. As the applicator, you should reduce drift and prevent water contamination. The label also states the product is highly toxic to bees with instructions on how to reduce impacts. Another section you will see on pesticide product labels are storage and disposal statements. The section tells you the temperatures a product can be stored at and if they can handle freezing. This example for Avenge states a product cannot be stored below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This is important because the product may no longer be effective if stored outside the listed range of temperatures. The storage and disposal statement is usually located on the last few pages of the pesticide product label. It also instructs you on how to dispose of pesticide containers. The directions for use section of the label tells you what pests and sites the product can be used on, how to mix the product, rates and timing, as well as restrictions for use. These include pre-harvest intervals, or how long to wait before harvesting the crop you applied a pesticide to, grazing restrictions, or how long you have to wait before allowing livestock on the treated area, composting restrictions, which describe whether plant material treated with the product can be composted, including manure from animals being fed treated feed, and also recropping restrictions, or how long before you can plant susceptible plants in the treated area. The next slides cover a few scenarios applicators may run into while applying pesticides. Scenario 1. An insecticide is applied to early bloom alfalfa and the neighbor's honeybee colony is impacted. There is a pollinator warning on the pesticide label. Is the applicator liable or is the honeybee trespassing? In this scenario, the applicator is liable because the label is the law. The environmental hazard statement clearly outlined the danger to bees. Scenario 2. An applicator applied milestone prior to grazing. Manure was collected after livestock grazed on treated grass and sold as a soil amendment for gardens. The soil amendment was later implicated in damage at various locations across the state. Is the applicator liable for non-target injury in gardens? In this scenario, the applicator is liable. They did not follow the restrictions section of the label. Milestone even has a graphic outlining what you can and can't do with the product. Scenario 3. You have a pesticide product labeled for aphids on spring wheat. Can you use this product to manage aphids on alfalfa? You cannot apply pesticides on a site not listed on the label. Scenario 4. You have a pesticide product labeled for aphids on spring wheat. Can you use this product to manage grasshoppers on spring wheat? Yes. Section 2EE of FIFRA states a pesticide may be applied against any target pest not specified on the label as long as the site is on the label. However, you cannot exceed the maximum required rates per season or application for the site. Using a pesticide for a pest not on the label is not always the best idea, since it means the pesticide probably does not control the pest well. Things you can do. You can use lower dosages, lower concentrations, less frequent applications, and use the pesticide on different pests. However, you may not use higher dosages, higher concentrations, more frequent applications, or on a different site. At this point, we recommend pausing the video and downloading the story problem packet posted on our website with the video links. For this presentation, you will use the Reading the Label story problem on page 2 and the milestone label which starts on page 14. Restart the video when you are done with the story problem. Question 1. What is the common name of milestone? The common name of milestone is aminopyrrolid. This can be found on the first page of the label. Question 2. Does this product have high acute toxicity? No. Milestone has the signal word caution, which means it has low acute toxicity. This can be found on page 15 of the packet under precautionary statements. Question 3. What personal protective equipment should Johnson wear while applying the pesticide? Johnson should wear a long-sleeve shirt and long pants, shoes, and socks. This can be found under personal protective equipment on page 15. Question 4. Workers should stay out of the area for how long? Do not allow worker entry until spray has dried. Rangeland applications are considered non-ag use. This information is found in the non-ag use requirements box on page 15. Question 5. Can milestone impact the Caragana on the property? Yes, milestone may impact the Caragana. This is found under restrictions for all uses on page 17, the 5th bullet. Question 6. Could he replant the pasture to alfalfa the next season? No, Johnson must wait at least 2 to 3 years to replant to alfalfa. Additionally, a bioassay is recommended prior to planting. This information is found under crop rotation on page 17. Question 7. Can he spray over the dried up irrigation canal intended for irrigation? No, Johnson can't treat banks or bottoms of irrigation ditches as stated on page 17 of the milestone label. Question 8. What product rate per acre should Johnson use to manage Canada thistle? Johnson should use 5 to 7 fluid ounces per acre. This rate is stated on page 18 of the milestone label. Question 9. When should he apply the product for controlling Canada thistle? Johnson should apply milestone in the spring before Canada thistle plants have fully emerged, or in the fall before a killing frost. This information is on page 18. This concludes the presentation on reading a pesticide product label. For more information on this topic, you can contact the MSU Extension Pesticide Education Program or your local extension office.